All right, welcome back to my channel here, and I somehow got 50 subscribers, which is pretty amazing for me. Uh, and so just printing this little plaque for myself, and figure I will film it. You know, because YouTube sends you a plaque when you get real subscription numbers, not 50. But I don't need YouTube to tell me I did a good job. Or actually, more like you guys did a good job. So this is going to be a multi-color print. I'm going to lay down the first few layers with silver and gold here. I think I made the first. So this is set on fine settings. So the first layer is 0.2 millimeters, and the remaining layers are 0.1 millimeters. So I made my text cutouts starting at 30 thousandths of an inch, which is basically, oh geez, now I'm do math on the spot. I hate when I do that to myself. Anyway, so 0.3 millimeters. Geez, did I mess up my math? 30 thousandths would be, yeah, I messed up my math. Anyway, millimeters is basically 40 thousandths of an inch. So 30 thousandths of an inch is a lot more than 3 layers. I was thinking it was the first 3 layers. So basically I have to let it print the first so many layers until once I see, basically I don't need to do the math. Once I see that it's, because the text is going to be a cutout, right? All right, so I forget that nobody knows what this looks like yet. That's weird. It looks like on my first layer, it's almost like varied in thickness at that hole. Anyway, I'm sure it's an optical illusion. So anyway, once I start to see the text being outlined, because the text is a cutout, so once I start seeing the text cutout, then I will change my filament. I think I'll be going with red. I was going to go with white text with a red play button, but when I was digging around for my white filament, I was triggered to remember that I had this silver and gold bicolor, I don't know, whatever you're going to call it. And so I decided to go with that instead of the white. We'll see how that works out. The white, I think, is more like in line with the YouTube sort of style guide logo. But for 2 reasons, I went with this, because A, I found this before I found the white and thought it might be more interesting. And B, I couldn't find the white offhand. I didn't look very long. I have this big box of PLA filament. I must have 100 rolls of filament. I remember I counted last year how many rolls of filament I had, and it had to be well over 50. I mean, just what I can see here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In this box, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Holy cow. And then on the shelf, another 8. So that's 40. Under there, I got another 3, 43, 44. Where else do I have filament? I have filament all over the place. That's 44. Okay, and that big dry box is a couple of this, like 46. It's like 48, 49, 50, 51. 52, 53. 54, 55, 56, 57. What's in that box? Nothing. And then I have that cabinet. So that's just my 1.7 millimeter. Oh, wait. What did I say? 57, 58. Is that more? No. 58. And then I have a cabinet with my 3 millimeter filament from my first 3D printer, which is 3 millimeter filament. And there's got to be another 25 in there. Like it's, I don't really want to dig in there. But anyway, I have a lot of filament. So let's see. How's this going? Looking good. It only looks like gold from this angle, but I'm sure if I put my head on the other side, It would look like silver, I think. My T in my thank you looks a little goofed up. I imagine it'll turn out fine. It's actually not part of the print well, it's not part of that plaque, my mini plaque. It's funny, I didn't realize how small it is. That's fine. 50 subs, don't need a huge plaque. And I was tempted to like 3D print a link chain to hang the thank you from. And I decided against that just because it would be like 2 chains, and to be that close, one of the chains would have to be really short, and one of the chains would be really long. And then I thought it would just hang funny, and it would just likely look junky. And so I decided against including the thank you, and I just put the thank you on there for the viewers, for the subscribers, to thank them for subscribing. And it's just going to be a separate piece after. I was thinking I could have just put like a thin line of filament of plastic to hang it by, but I decided I just wanted the plaque as just the plaque. Oh, I better find some red filament here. Oh, right on top. Nice. Because I'm going to have to change it. Now I swapped, for return viewers, you might notice that I was running filament from hanging from above when I was doing color changes. I did a few videos in a row where I did various color changes, and for some reason I decided to put it back in the regular Bowden tube as intended, and I may switch back and forth. That's so weird. It's just the nature of 3D printing. It looks so different past that hole. Oh, maybe it's filling that in after. I don't know if that makes sense what I was just saying there, but it skipped. It looks like what I was saying earlier. It looked like a different thickness or like it was bubbling up or something at the hole, or next to the hole, the lines next to the hole. But I think it's just going to draw those last. I think that's all I think I was seeing. It wasn't an optical illusion. It actually was thicker away from the hole, and it probably just printed that later, and I didn't notice. So I imagine it's going to go back and fill in that gap. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It wasn't raining when I came out to my shed, and now it's pouring out, and so I'm going to get soaked unless it stops by the time I go back in. Yeah, so there it goes. It's filling that gap in, as I suspected. The second suspicion. My first suspicion was incorrect. And hopefully, I think I made this thank you taller than, so I think the color change will show up on the thank you, which is as I intended. That way the border will be different color than the thank you, because I didn't want there's an exclamation, you can't even see it right now, but there's an exclamation point after the thank you. And so you wouldn't be able to see it in the frame there if it was all one color. And also the T is kind of taken up by the border there also. And the border is just to hold the letters together. And so with the color change, it should look good. I think I made the thank you taller than the color change layer and I intended. And so hopefully that works out. This is a super nice clean layers here. Actually, the first layer looked really nice too. Once in a while, I'll get goofy first layer, but then I realized, now I say that, I realized I had turned I was printing on the normal, I think it's called normal setting for PLA, which is, I think it goes a little slower, but thicker layers, 0.2 instead of 0.1. And I had just experimenting, I had cranked the speed up all by 50% over speed, like 150% speed. And I was like, man, these first layers are coming out like crap. I had forgotten that I turned up the speed on that. And so I put it back to normal. And now the first layers are super nice again. And so that's good. And it's funny, I did another experiment that I had forgotten about. So you might see in my previous video, I think it was the previous one, or a couple videos ago, where I had accidentally turned, I was trying to do super fast benching, and so I turned the infill down to 1%. and then I forgot that I had done that, and then I printed my Power Pack organizer, which has a big flat bottom, but the bottom is thicker than the bottom and top layers thickness, and therefore it needed infill. And so I had 1% infill on this big flat piece, and it's the bottom layer, like the floor layer, the top floor layer. Actually, it was the bottom. How do I say that? The top shell layers of the floor were horrible, like super wavy, and but it totally recovered, and the floor came out decent. The floor looks a little bit wavy, but who cares? It's in the floor of this organizer. The floor is obscured by the contents of the organizer, so it doesn't really matter. The remainder of the organizer came out super clean, as the K1 nearly always does, unless you really experiment with the settings to see how far you can push the limits before it fails. Now, this is interesting. I almost didn't even plug in the mic because I figured I didn't really have anything to say on this. And so now, evidently, I've been talking for 11 minutes straight. So it's kind of how I roll. It reminds me of back in the day when I was really young. I don't know what this. I do know what this made me think of it. And when you think of you're all nervous, you're going to call a girl or a boy or whatever you're into, and it was oh, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? But then you get on the phone and the conversation just happens, and so it's just like you're apprehensive for nothing. It's funny, I haven't had that thought in years or decades. I don't know. Because now I'm just old and I know. I just make the call, and the conversation will happen normal, just like in this video. Just plug the mic in and say once. I intended to just basically say, this is for my 50 subs and thank you. And now we'll just watch the video, watch the print in peace and quiet. And but instead you have me talking. All right, so now we're printing. It's doing the outline of the text, and so pretty soon I will pause it and change the filament to red. I want to make sure it's not just trolling me here, that it's actually, like, I don't know if it could be just doing some bottom layer. It's interesting, it's printing the text. It is right. Actually, that is what it is. It's the top shell or the top surfaces of the indented, the debossed text, I guess is the right word, debossed. So I don't actually know that it could do 2 layers of that. So if I change to red right now, it might just make the whole thing red, and then I would be stupid. So I'm gonna let it print a little bit, make sure that is the actual floor top surface of the text before I change the filament. That's a little bit ugly there, but maybe it's like a little scarred the surface a little bit there, but it's going to be covered up, so maybe the software just doesn't care. Like, I think it's more careful about not scarring the top surface if it's the actual top surface, but whereas this is not the actual top surface, I think it doesn't care. That's weird. The lettering there is quite scarred up. We'll see how that plays out. I imagine it'll look super nice at the end, like it usually does. Like I say, if you don't intentionally push the limits on the settings. So that hole gets covered up. That hole is just like a tapered cut, and so basically I can just put a screw in the wall and plop it on the screw head, and it'll just rest there. That's the plan. I think it'll work fine. I might even just use like double-sided sticky tape, but actually though it'll be self-leveling because I put this hole above the center of mass, as I show in a previous video that I released today. So maybe it should be the latest video before this one, showing how I found the center of mass on the part. Now, theoretically, it's sort of an equilateral triangle, although it's rounded. And so theoretically, the center of mass would be above the center point of the face, which was centered around the origin of the CAD file. But with the addition of the lettering cutouts, that would slightly throw off the center of mass to one side or the other. So I would say the left side, because it's got the capital S, might be lighter because it's a cutout. The text is cut out. But so anyway, it wouldn't be exact. So I used the center of mass command to get the exact center of mass, and then I went above that. All right, I think I need to change the filament. It's hard to tell if the text has depth to it now. Maybe if I can I do this without getting hurt? No, so they're at the same height. So I don't want to do it yet, because it still might do another layer of the floor of the text. Yeah, that's all the same height. Like I say, hopefully I catch the filament change before the thank you is done, so I can get the red lettering on the thank you. No big deal if I don't. I could even make that a different color, a third color, and then go to the red if I were so inclined. It's still, yeah. So now it is outlining the text. So if that ends up at a different height, then I know it's time to change the filament. Like if the floor of the text it ends up lower with this layer, then I know it's time to change the filament. In retrospect, maybe I would have made the thank you a little taller to give myself a little leeway. I'm not sure how many layers. I think I made the text, the thank you, I think I made it 60 thousandths tall. All right, so we're on infill now. And so that is hinting to me that we are no longer on the layer of the floor of the text. And so now once it finishes that thank you, I'm going to pause it. Oh, no, I'm going to let it finish outlining the lettering first. I'm going to get ready to pause it for my filament change once it finishes outlining this text. Pause. Now, don't forget to remind me to pull put the clutch back in. You don't know how many times I've wrecked the print by forgetting to re-engage the clutch after a filament swap. So everybody put in the comments. I know I'm kidding, because obviously I won't see it until it's too late. Close enough to 45? Let's see. This is a little bit cumbersome, the way the spool is on the back here, but it is a nice clean look, and like it keeps the, it's definitely the cleanest and most compact filament spool arrangement of any of the printers that I've had. Nice, that went through. And that's extruding. Click the clutch, pull out my red booger here, or gold booger, whatever color it might be. There it is, booger. And ignore the filament, and continue. And this should turn to red very soonly. There we go. Now we got some red going. I am so hungry. I entirely don't want to sit out here and watch this. I should go in and eat. But this printer is addictive, and it's like hypnotic. It goes so fast and accelerates so quickly. It's you can just sit here and watch it. It's weird. Like with with non clipper based printers that all my other printers have been non clipper based, and they're just so slow, and it's like watching paint dry, and you don't watch it because it's like watching paint dry. But this, it's like watching an artist paint. Forget about the drying. Are we still recording? I hope so. Yep, looks like. This looks kind of cool already. I like how the printer just shakes. It's on these real rubbery, flubbery feet, like thick, like it must be like a half-inch cushion of rubber under, and it's a really soft rubber. So the thing just wobbles around while it's printing, which is fine as long as the chassis itself is thick. Would I have a moth in my? So I got a moth in the in my belt idlers. That's interesting. Not a good day for that moth, I guess. Or maybe it is a good day. Maybe he got some fumes and had a little fun time with the plastic fumes. I don't know. Who knows? But he's not looking very mobile. Other than actually he's moving really fast. I would say, like 10,000 meters per second. No, I don't know. I have no idea how fast the accelerations are on this. I'm not that sophisticated of a printer. Though I watched some of those channels. There's a couple guys with super high-speed channels that maybe some of you have seen or not. They just have these super fast, custom-built. I don't know if they're Voron based or if I think they're Voron. Or it might be what's the other one? I can't think of what the other. Because I'm thinking about building one of these, either a Voron or whatever the other one is, Big Dog, or I can't think of what it is. Put it in the comments. I can't remember what it is. If you know what I'm talking about, the competitor for the Voron, whatever that is. These guys, those things print so fast, and those guys are like, oh, this acceleration rate, that acceleration rate. I'm like, I don't know acceleration rates that just don't. It's like it's like telling me the temperature in Rankine. Like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, I get the concept, and I could look it up, and I understand what it's for. It's like Kelvin, but it's the other units. And but I don't. My brain doesn't work in those units, and so my brain just doesn't work on like printer acceleration yet. So I guess once I build a custom one, then I'm sure it will be second nature to me. All right, so the thank you is coming out very, very nicely, as I was hoping. And I was just thinking, maybe I should have attached it, but the thank you is more for the viewers. And, I don't need the thank you on my wall thanking myself. Well, although maybe that would be a little cooler. But I just wanted the sort of play button guitar pick plaque to hang somewhere. Now that I think about it, maybe I should have made that. Well, I was going to say I could have made that. I've been making a lot of magnetized things, and I have a whole bunch of these little tiny magnets that I bought for embedding in prints for various purposes. And I could have made the socket. So I have a standard sort of socket that the magnet snaps into that I've put on other parts. And so I'm saying to myself, I could have done that here. But on the other hand, if I did that here, then I would only be limited to hanging it to metallic things, unless I used like double-sided tape or something. Although I could have done it additionally to this hole. But now that I think about it, I could potentially just make an adapter that pops into that hole that grabs that magnet. Man, that looks really cool with that infill. I almost want to do like no top layers. I might reprint this with no top solid layers just to keep the infill. That's kind of cool, actually. And maybe I would do a cooler infill than the rectangular. Although this is the standard infill for their standard settings. And I find that the slicer software can be a little bit buggy if you change the settings. Primarily only in the temperature is really the only place I noticed that. So if I stray away from the standard settings for temperature, I find that the later temperatures it'll be correct, but the initial temperatures, which is like for the first layer or two, often are incorrect temperatures. And so I have to either go into if I remember, I have to go into the G code and edit them manually to get those temperatures right, which is pretty easy to do, but it's a little cumbersome, and you quote unquote shouldn't have to do that. But in reality, in 3D printing, especially in cutting edge like this printer is, sometimes you have to figure out the workarounds, and it just is what it is. And so you go into the G code and you Control F does a find, and so you do a search find for M104. I believe is the nozzle temperature. To wait, like the software will pause, like firmware will cause the printer to pause and wait for it to reach that temperature. And I believe M109 also sets the temperature, but the firmware doesn't pause and wait for it to reach that temperature. And then you have, I believe, M140, which is the bed temperature, and M190 is the bed temperature for the two cases again. And all right, so now we're starting on the first layer of the top shell. I want to say this is, evidently I ran out of space on my video, but it is done. I wonder how much of that I missed, but here we have it. Thanks to my 50 subscribers.